Welcome to Woman Talk, where we keep it real. My name is Tara. Please join me and my girls Dee Dee and Promesta as we have difficult and informative conversations. Our goal is to uplift and encourage you. Please go with us on this journey. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Women Talk, where we keep it real. Today, we are going to just, be talking about some of the current events that are going on. We usually don't weigh in on a lot of this stuff, but I guess today is the day, so we're going to get started. Hopefully, I can trigger Dee Dee to be her real self today.
You're not going to catch me flipping today.
And shout out to Promise. She's back doing, she's out on the ministry trail and taking care of things going down in Florida. She's got a big event today, so we will see her back soon. All right, so Dee Dee, we are talking about the slap. They call it the slap her around the world, right? So
yes.
And I know you weighed in on social media about this a little bit. I didn't read your post, but I know you weighed in. So why don't you start with whatever you said about that so far?
Well, it's really crazy though, because I don't understand how we even can be divided on this. And my reason for that is, for someone, I like Will. I really do. I like Will. I still have respect for Will. I just think he had a lack of judgment. And maybe some things going on with him. You know what I'm saying? That you never know about. We never know what people are going through. But at the end of the day, walking even over a joke, he is a comedian. You know what I'm saying? He is a comedian. That's what comedians do. That's why you don't go sit in the front row at the comedy show, because you already know that they getting ready to get you. So I feel like the joke that was done, had he known, and we can't prove that she had any, some health issues going on with her hair, had he known that, okay, we can say that that was in bad taste. But if he just assumed that she cut her hair short, because a lot of people do, and he was just cracking a joke, even though it could be hurtful to her. So I'm not taking away the fact that it was hurtful to her. But to go on stage and slap somebody, I don't find that as defending your spouse. Defending your spouse is if somebody's getting ready to do something to them and they're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I find that as an assault. I mean, it was a bad judgment, but that's what it is, because I expect for my husband to defend me if somebody is getting ready to put their hands on me. But we teach our kids that, words don't hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's their words, rather. I won't say they don't hurt.
I'm a therapist. I'm a therapist. I don't believe that.
Words hurt. No, words
Absolutely.
hurt. But I'm saying to put your hands on somebody from words. I don't think that is what we should do. Like, people are going to say stuff all the time, but putting your hands on someone is just taking it to another level. Not that she shouldn't have been hurt, because I believe she should have been. If I was going through that, I'm a woman. I love everybody. I love my hair. I've lost my hair before when I was young, in my younger years. So I know the pain of, at a young age in middle school, of having your hair and then losing. I literally my hair was down my back, and I literally had to cut my hair to this. So I totally understand how devastated I was. And so is one of the reasons I do what I do is in taking care of my hair today is because of what I went through. So I understand that. It's just, I still don't think that putting your hands on someone, you could have checked them. Put them to the side, check them. I didn't like the joke that the joke that you told about my wife. To me, that would have been better than putting your hands. People would have understood that a little bit more.
But I think too, it brings up a whole bunch of social issues too. So I've heard people say that Will Smith is misogynistic. I've heard people say that Chris Rock is misogynistic. I've heard, I've heard these things. I don't really have an opinion either way. I think about the fact that when you have an obligation, you know you have them. So I'm looking, what I'm seeing is a combined almost $500 million in net worth on the stage and how they're acting. Now, anything that we get, we know we have to fight for. And I heard someone say, it is so unfortunate that when one Black person does something, it's almost like is the whole of our community is affected. And that's true. And they wish it wasn't like that, because it's not the same in, say, the Caucasian community. That person does something, they stand on their own. But because of our combined struggle, we also have a tendency to kind of, in a sense, enjoy people's, their success as a community. And so when you see that, it's harmful to me, to our community, because I'm still thinking about, what is your legacy? These things never, ever, ever go away. So time in history where they said the entire production crew for the Oscars this year was Black. The entire production crew. They said this is the first time Beyonce has been on an award show in 5 years. You won Best Actor. That's all overshadowed because of that incident. Now, I feel like this. If you want to take Chris Rock in the corner and smack the hell out of him, have at it. I don't have an opinion either way, but don't do it on the national stage. That's the issue that I have. We all have issues. You know what I mean? I can't say that thought might not come up in my mind if somebody say the wrong thing. I pray, I ask God to deliver me from certain aspects of my personality. Has it fully happened? It hasn't been tested. I don't allow myself to go in those types of situations to know. So I don't, but it's real. I'm a real person. That's why I said I don't have an opinion either way. I think for me, it's more one of those soapbox issues that I talk about. When we're talking about legacy, these are things, and these are young kids. These are men in their 50s. Do you see what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. We have more generations coming behind me. So of course, what I did in my 30s, I'm probably not going to do today. Now, I can't say for sure. You are never going to say, she said she'd never do that, because that I haven't been tested in that way. I don't know. But I think it's a way that you handle things. And when you're thinking about the fact that you're going to have grandchildren and great-grandchildren that come up behind you, and this is what they're going to see, or this is what's remembered, for me, that's an issue. We have to think about the legacy that we're building. I always say, what are people going to say about you when you leave this earth? What are people going to say about you when you leave the room?
Well, I have a question for you, though. When it comes to like your kids seeing that, when we send our kids to school, I think one of the things that I've always told my kids, though, if somebody say something, then you don't put your hands on them. If they put their hands on you, they change the game. And that's how I feel about that. It's not, I don't try to do it right or wrong. I just never think it's okay for people to put their hands on people unless you are trying to defend yourself in a way that you're in danger, though, not a way where words were used. And I just feel like once we start saying it's okay to walk up and punch somebody because they say something that we may not like, because I don't believe that he even knew what was going on with her. Just like a lot of people didn't know what was going on with him. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe that he knew that. So I believe that when we hear comedians say all kind of stuff. I'm not saying right or wrong, but at the end of the day, that's a conversation to be had. That's why I feel like adults have conversations. And
I agree with that.
Yeah, adults have conversations. It's not, and if a person is not putting their hands on you, that is when you defend yourself. And I think maybe because of things I've been through in my life, that I'm just real big on keeping your hands to yourself. Just like in relationships, I say women should keep their hands to themselves, men should keep their hands to themselves. I'm real big on people keeping their hands to themselves. And once we start saying, well, it's okay to hit somebody if they say something that you don't like, we're just opening up something huge there. I mean, because I just know telling my kids, they'll say, such and such said this, and they hit them and they got suspended. I'm like, okay, well, they didn't put their hands on them. Like, that's when the game changed.
And I remember years ago, my son had a fight at school because the guy charged him and he pushed him. And then when the guy charged him again, he just held on to him. So the guy couldn't get loose, and then the guy bit him. And that was the whole of the fight. You know, when we went, they sent the police to my house. And then they were like, well, he had a duty to retreat. And I had never heard that before. But we can't guarantee that if it happened again, the same thing wouldn't happen. So I think about it in terms of, for people who are talking about Chris Rock is a punk and all this stuff, you have to look at it. I'm a clinician. I didn't been called out my name. I've seen kids throwing things, and maybe I would have got, almost hit with something, all of that. But in the end of the day, I have to remember I'm at work. Chris Rock was at work. So he responded in a way like a person who is employed would respond. So I totally support the fact that he did not retaliate in a way that was physical. And then he basically, in so many words, was like, okay, my bad.
That's what I'm saying. That could have been a conversation and saved embarrassment, but that's not worth it. You know what I'm saying? That's my thing, is that all of that is not worth it over what I believe we can say was a poor taste in a joke, then maybe, or for a joke to have been said and then a person that had been offended because they were going through something. And so not downplaying her being offended. Like I said, I understand, but I just don't think that, the hands on. That's like really my biggest thing. That's why I tell people I'm not right. I'm not pro Will or Chris. I'm what's right and wrong, and you just don't put your hands on people unless you're really defending yourself. Really, you're not defending yourself against words, but you're defending yourself.
I'll just say I'm grateful to God that I have not been presented with certain situations. Like we said, a situation in poor taste, it affects the legacy of Will Smith. We have to think about that. And I always shout out Dr. Tina, because that was some of the best advice she ever could have given me. When she said, you never know who you're assigned to, which means you always got to be on, because you don't know who's watching you. You don't know who is looking to you for mentorship, support. We don't know.
You just brought up something else. I remember when my son went through the stuff he went through at the school. And I remember going up to the school and going off. And I just was about to probably do something that probably was not good. And I turned and I looked, and the girls that I mentor were standing there. That fixed me real quick. I'm telling you, that was like a check mark, because how can I mentor them and tell them that they should do things a certain way? And then, even though I was put in a situation that was not good, but then I react a certain kind of way. So how can I still continuously tell them that they shouldn't behave a certain way?
And that right there is a visual reminder, point blank. So it's like, what are your children having to have conversations with their friends about? What are they saying? How are they? Like, all that stuff. It really, to me, that matters. That matters. What are people going to say about it?
But I did notice it's very overshadowed. But what I will say is, when he did his acceptance speech, I think he was feeling it. Like, I think he was emotional. I think he was ashamed. I do. I think he was very ashamed.
But I heard Steve Harvey say something, and it's true, because he kept talking about what he was called to do. When you say that, you imply that God is in it somewhere. Well, like Steve Harvey said, if God is in it, then there will be no sin attached to it. That's true. Don't attribute it to God. Don't talk about what you called to do, protect and love and all this stuff. I don't disagree, but I disagree with the placement of the statements. That's why I say you have to be very, very, very careful. That's why when you that big, you hire publishers. You accept your award. You say, thank you. I apologize for any disrespect. You go forward and then you write like what you did the next day anyway. But to do all that stuff, I don't doubt he was probably embarrassed.
Like, he was very emotional. And I think a lot of it had to do with his behavior. It's just not a way that you normally hear about him behaving.
So if you have one final point to say about him before we move to the next event, what would it be? I know mine is be careful what you do. Your legacy matters. That's what I would take.
I think you said it all right there. I think that's just, I think that falls within, controlling and handling things as an adult. I mean, I know we lose it sometimes. We all do. We all do things that we're embarrassed of, respond a way that we may be ashamed of, but we just, we need to start making sure that we respond as adults and then not condone when we're not, you know what I'm saying? You can understand people, you can do all of that, but we should always try to respond to things as adults.
So there's an issue here in Georgia where they've passed a law that what is called critical race theory cannot be taught in public schools. But I think that it's basically, you cannot teach that anything within sight of this country is based on racial inequality.
Well, I only have one thing to say about that. So basically, we can't teach the truth.
Okay, but that's I guess so. That's what it comes down to, because the reality is things that are built, this country was built on things that are based in racial inequality, slavery being one. So if you say that, then are you saying you can no longer teach slavery? Like, what is excluded? Because that's a big, huge thing. You can't talk about the civil rights movement. You can't talk about that there were actually water fountains and bathrooms that said colored or white or whites only. Like, those are the things we can't talk about. And I'm going to say this: the same things that have tarnished this country are the same things that have made this country great. That's the same in everybody's life. We become who we are based on the good and the bad. So why can't we teach the good and the bad? So,
and I mean, you teach the good and the bad to do better, though. That's how you grow.
We've done better. We've done better. Are there still great divides? Is there still great inequality? Yes, but we've done better in many instances.
Absolutely.
So I just wonder about that. And I know Rose, she don't ever like to be put on the camera or have her voice heard, but I just kind of want to hear from you about that and what you have to say about that. Because you raising a strong Black man. I see him and some of the things that he does, and it's like awesome. So how do you manage that and keep him balanced, I guess?
I guess being a parent is part of it, is having to fill in the gaps, right? Because there's a lot of things that aren't being taught in school that should be taught to kids, but this in particular, not that he won't forget history, but the importance of things that happen and how he should carry himself and how he may be viewed in certain spaces, to have an understanding of that, and not only to him, to any of the kids that I mentor or any of the kids that kind of come in my circle for however long they're there, just the importance of who you are as a person, who we are as a race. Schools are not going to teach it. I think they're even trying to base slavery as a moment in time and not the full impact of what slavery did and what is still happening to this day. Like, some of the things that are still happening to this day are based off of things that were set during slavery, so to speak. So for me, and I hope others, if you're a parent, guardian, mentor, you're having these candid conversations with the young people, because they're not seeing it, because it's not taught in schools. It's is not the popular thing to talk about, but it is still highly important to how they should carry themselves, and even just the generational wealth that they want to build for their families in the future. Like, you're coming off of backs of men and women who have climbed and crawled and all of these things. You should, there's a level of respect that you have to have for how you got to this point and how you should carry yourself, and you shouldn't demean what happened, and understand that it only makes you stronger. So those are the type of conversations that I have to have with him. And like I said, anyone else I come into contact with, it saddens me that it is, like Didi said, the truth is not being taught in schools. School is supposed to be a place of education, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable. So to take it out, to dismiss it, it just means the more work that we're going to have to do in communities, with organizations, with mentor programs, with anything that's happening out of school time. How are we going to bring this conversation up in a way that it doesn't frighten the kids, but in more so that it enlightens them and encourages them to do more?
I think about that because it's like, man, what gets missed? I think that if you don't bring light to it, then more of the issues that we've had keep happening. And so in essence, what's happening is they're doing what they're doing in other countries. Because I heard somewhere that they were saying about this whole war thing, that it's not a war, that they're billing it over in Russia and Ukraine, like it's not an actual war, that it's something else. And I'm like, how can you call war
something
not
else?
war? Right. So it's like, I think it feels very much to me like that's what they'll be doing. But I think that what happens is that, to me, is an attempt to take away empowerment, because certain things fuel our empowerment, even whether it be positive or negative. And I think that is a bid to take away some of the things that have empowered us, meaning Black people specifically as a people, and those who support Black people. So that's what I'm feeling like. I mean, it's unfortunate.
I'm wondering though, and I just thought about this because this happened in Georgia, and I know it happened in Michigan, and this has been a few years ago. I'm wondering if they did this because I remember there being an issue with lessons that they were teaching, and the teachers were giving them work that said, name some things that were good about slavery. And then kids were having a problem because, what is good? Like, what is good about slavery? And I'm wondering if that is their way to rectify it, when really maybe those shouldn't be the assignments that were handed out. You change what your work assignments are, not take it out, altogether. But there was a big thing a few years ago. I know in Georgia, that's the first place I heard of it, and then in Michigan, but I wonder if that was their way of, saying that
recently,
won't happen.
Recently, it made the news where they actually did like an auction of kids at the school, talking about what they would be worth. But like, in slavery time, I can't remember where that was, but I saw that.
See, that's distasteful. That's a distasteful assignment.
Absolutely. So I think that I went to a training not long ago, and it was phenomenal. I have to say that. And it was 2 Caucasian girls. I was way down in South Georgia. I was in Valdosta. And they were talking about bringing race into the clinical setting and what that looks like. And they talked about having those uncomfortable conversations because it was painfully obvious to them that they were white, that they had privilege, and they needed to be talking about that in a way that was meaningful. Because I didn't know what I was going to hear when I went. I mean, being as old as I am and have worked as long as I have, I don't know how many, racial diversity, inclusion, multicultural, all those kind of workshops I've been to. But this one was unique in the fact that they were 100% acknowledging that they had privilege. And they said this, I said it was so impactful. They said, white people or Caucasians or people with privilege are taught to ignore privilege when people who don't have privilege are taught to acknowledge it. So it's like you're living in two different worlds. You seeing the same thing, but and we know we'll say as Black people that that's because of privilege, and they'll say, well, there's no such thing as privilege. It's just because of this or because of that. And she
Right.
said the way to start to fix it is to acknowledge that privilege gives them insight into things that it doesn't give people who don't have privilege into. And
Right.
it was just real clear, but I had never been to a workshop like, and I was astonished that they even said that out loud, because we're taught to acknowledge that privilege exists and white people are taught to ignore it. And that's the truth. And that, so what they're trying to do now is build into the system of education privilege. We are going to ignore that this happened because we really haven't come up with an appropriate response to deal with it and the emotions that come with it. That's what it sounds like is happening. And like I said, it's unfortunate, but it requires us to teach our kids at home, which we should be doing anyway, so that they know.
Absolutely. Making sure that they hear it the right way anyway. You know, making sure that they understand, because
And
they
I'm
don't.
not gonna say, yeah, I'm not gonna say 100%, oh, I'm right, but they're gonna hear it. And they're gonna hear it from my perspective. Now what you've done is you've removed the opportunity for them to get a different perspective. They're gonna get it all my perspective.
Yeah. Well, they're probably hoping that the parents don't give them any. So.
Yeah. And some won't, but that's why it's up to us as a community to go back to educating our community and making sure that we have those educational opportunities available for young people to understand. I mean, you're talking about a whole state. What's going to happen when these kids who've never had it go to college? These young ones coming up, then it's going to smack them in the face because it's going to be there.
Well, I know that is crazy. And Tara, though, one thing that I want to talk about is I want to talk about stress in the workplace, though. Like stress in the
Wait, you know, I just thought Chris Rock was real stressed at work the other day.
He sure was. He was. That was some serious stress there. But that's the stress in the workplace and the mental health in the workplace. You know, because we've been taking these trainings. We take these trainings now at work that we have to listen to these videos. And actually this month, it was all on mental health. It was a whole bunch of them. They were all on mental health. And I just was wondering, for you as a therapist, are you seeing more and more people discussing the stress in the workplace and how things, you know, are going for them? I know for me, when I'm not in a good place, and that's the one thing, like I always tell you, I give you credit. When you told me it's okay not to be okay, girl, I will let them know I'm not okay. For real. Like I am not okay. I don't even fake it till I make it or nothing. I might wait till I get to a limit, but I will say when I'm not okay. But as a therapist, have you been, have you noticed your clients with, you know, as far as a lot of mental health things and stress for work? And B, what would be your recommendation to employers for their, you know, employees during these times?
So what I would say is this: stress has always been prevalent in the workplace, period. Just, I think that it's coming up more and more now because the reality is the pandemic has shown people that there are other options. This is the worst time to try to hire somebody because folks have made it work. So they're like, I don't need your job. So that's what you're seeing. That's why they called it, I think, the Great Resignation, because people quitting all over the place because they found ways to either gain new income, they've started businesses. So they're less willing to take the crap that they used to from their employers because quite frankly, they don't need these jobs like they used to. That's one thing. But I think, like I said, it's always been prevalent. EAP programs have been around for a long time. So I don't know if I'm seeing an increase in it opposed to people suggesting more that folks take advantage of this benefit because they don't want them to quit. They tired of people going on leaves of absences because of mental stress. So I think I see that more so than anything. But I think that for me, it's all about having balance. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Make sure that you're using every benefit you have available to you on your job. I had never heard of such, but I guess there's a thing in corporate America called unlimited PTO where they don't have to accrue it. They just can't take advantage. Utilize some of these benefits. If your employer has an EAP program, utilize it. See a therapist. And it's not always about, oh, it's something wrong, but it's about making sure you keep something right, if that makes sense. Keep everything together because people are stressed, but and I say this too, if you think of it in terms of energy, even though I'm not so much an energy person, but if you think about it in terms of energy, it takes energy to be stressed. So anybody, the whole time we've been dealing with the pandemic, there has been more stress in the world, period. So that means that everybody is being affected in some kind of way. Just being able to acknowledge that and go forward. Yes, it's been hard. Yes, it's been an unusual time. We got to wear masks. We can't see, we can't see people smiling. We can't see, all that kind of stuff. People are starting to shake hands again and they're starting to give hugs again and stuff like that. But for a long time, I did it like, no, not me. But for a long time, that wasn't present. So just the way that we socialize has changed. So it's just about being able to make adjustment and to be flexible in the things that we do and to make sure that we are having balance in what we do. You can't just work all the time. You got to be able to have balance. And if we remember that kind of thing, some of the stress that we're experiencing will definitely go down.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I know for our office, because we have been down so many people that it had been overwhelming because we would have these calendars of where we had to cover our own, we had to cover our own work every day, but then cover someone else's. We had to do our work. And I would say 4 days out the week, we're doing somebody else's work, 4 out of 5 days. So it has been so overwhelming because when you already are overwhelmed with your own, you don't even need another case to be overwhelmed. You just can be overwhelmed with your own, but then when you have to handle someone else's case, it's just very, very, overwhelming, especially 4 days out the week. I'm just like, that is a lot. Like, that is really, really a lot. That one day, I usually want to have it off because when I don't have anybody's stuff, I'm like, oh goodness, I need a mental break.
But I'm glad that it's forced in employers' hands. I really am. I'm glad that we're seeing that it's forcing employers to take care of their employees because now they have more incentive to want to keep them. Where before it's like, oh, well, I remember somebody said people looking for jobs every day, people trying to get hired every day. Now that's changed. So now you see employers putting things in place to make sure that their employees are comfortable. It should have been like that all along.
Yes.
If you ask me, it should have been like that all along. You got places like McDonald's talking about childcare. When did that happen?
Exactly.
Or, some form of something that's closer to a livable wage. I have not seen so many help wanted signs in my life is what I'm seeing now. Just driving down the street.
Help wanted, or we have to close early because we don't have enough employees. I think I've been seeing that lately where we're not open on Tuesday because we don't have enough people to work, or we instead of closing at 6 o'clock, we have to close at 4 because we don't have enough employees. I was like, wow.
Where employers have traditionally, in a sense, not valued their workforce, now they're being forced to value their workforce. Very important. So yeah, thank you for that. I'm glad. And then it just brings me to don't be struggling. If you don't struggle,
In
talk to
silence.
somebody.
You hear me? In
Talk to
silence.
somebody and
Absolutely.
get it together so that you can have the best life that you can live during it. That's just important.
I know
So
my therapist, she has a family emergency. So I was like, I said, I'll be okay. I'll wait. I'm gonna wait. Girl, that stress hit me at work. I was like, yeah, I probably need to look for somebody. Let me look for somebody because I can't, I can't. It's just been so much. I say last 2 years have been, so much loss, so much everything that, you just you don't want to just get where you're in a dark place because sometimes you don't even know you're headed there until you're sitting there and then you don't even know how to get out.
Yeah. And do things to take care of yourself. Like make sure. I tell people after a long day at work, I could hop on the highway and get home quick. But what I'll do is I'll take the street. That gives me a little bit of extra time to kind of decompress so that, by the time I hit my door, I'm still not wound up like, this long day, this long day of work, that kind of thing. It's a whole lot of tools that we can use. I would love, and Ro can see if it'll be feasible, but I would love one day to do like where we have people that can just hop on. Maybe we kind of do a live, or they can just hop on and ask questions, and we answer those questions. Because I know we always say, drop us a comment, ask a question, we'll answer it. But it would be, nice to be able to do that and see some of the people who are hopping on and want to talk to us. So I think that
We
would be cool. So
absolutely
Ro, I don't
should.
know if we could do that, Ro, but you should
Ro
let
can
us
make it
know.
happen. Ro will make it happen.
You can let us know how peaceful how peaceful that is. Good. I think whenever we have good stuff happening, that we should just talk about that. And there's an organization. I don't even want to call them an organization. I guess I want to say a lifestyle brand called YIB. They did a fundraiser, and it was just it was their first event, and it was phenomenal. They spotlighted women businesses. They had some vendors, and they raised funds for two very worthy Atlanta agencies. One called Rebecca's Tent, which is it's a homeless shelter for women. And then another called A Lady Named Pearl, who is kind of like entrepreneurship, mentorship. They teach modeling and poise and grace and all of that. But the thing about YIB is the fact that it's just a genuine lifestyle brand, and it's all about inclusion. And so I'm wearing one of their shirts. Mine says, yeah, I support Black lives, but they also have, yeah, I'm Black, and some other phrases that you can choose. You can check out their website. They didn't ask me to shout them out. They're not sponsoring me, but I believe that you support people who are doing good things. And so to Lo and her crew, I want to say congratulations again on your successful event, and just check them out. Again, it's YIB. And if you look them up on Instagram, it's Yeah, I'm Black is what you're going to find. So check them out. They're doing good things, and support them. So shout out to Carmen Thomas of Transformational Gems. She's in Michigan doing some awesome things, supporting women businesses, and doing great things. And she's always what people don't know, they never know folks' story and how long they've been out here grinding. Carmen has been out here grinding for a long time, supporting women and supporting businesses and offering mentorship and all of those things. So check them out. Transformational Gems. You can find them on Facebook, but I just want to make sure that we're always being positive and supporting those things, because there's so much negative in the world. When people are doing positive things, it seems to sometimes get overshadowed. So
yes, absolutely.
To offer that. If y'all haven't checked out Beauty for Ashes, Overcoming Trauma to Live in Victory, please do. Again, I've gotten good reviews. It's weird when you search for stuff and you see like oh, now there's a link for the UK. Now there's a link for Australia. It's like, what's happening? But I just know that when you're faithful to what God tells you to do, he is going to do what he said he was going to do through your obedience. So I appreciate all the support that I've gotten and the good things are happening. I think some places even using it as a textbook. I don't know what that's about, but hopefully I'll hear more about like, hey, it is what it is. So I'm just grateful. I'm really grateful to have that be a part of my legacy since I'm talking about legacy. So
that's why you can't be out there smacking people.
We would just like to invite you in on our podcast where we're going to talk about some things. So get your tissues ready. It's going to be deep, but it's going to be real. So we invite you to just sit in with us and share our experiences, share your experiences with us, and we'll share ours with you.